history of a former pit village project. My name is Iris Larkins and the respondent is
Carol Borland.
Today is Saturday the 11th of May 2019 and the interview is taking place in Pollock Library at Silverburn, Glasgow. Thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed for the project, Carol.
Thank you.
Now, for the record, could you please confirm your name?
Carol Borland.
So, what is your age or your year of birth?
I was born in 1964 and I'm almost 55.
Where were you born, Carol?
I was born in the Southern General Hospital in Govan, but my parents were living in Pinmore Street at the time.
Where do you live now?
I live in Rochmuscle, which is just a wee kind of a small housing bit, just more or less just along off the Nitshill Road.
We're going to talk about your early life now, Carol. Can you tell me what your earliest memory is in Nitshill?
I remember, like, if my mum and my dad were taking me out and walking down the big hill at Pinmore Street, which I now believe is called Kirkbree. So I remember that. I remember my primary school, going to school, just various kind of different wee things.
Can you tell me a little about your family, your parents, mum, dad, any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I don't have any brothers or sisters. It's just my mum, my dad, and my parents were a wee bit older when they had me. My dad was 40, almost 40, and my mum was 32, which I think in those days were quite old. I think a lot of people had their children quite young.
So what did your mum and dad do for a living?
My mum, to trade, was a tailoress, but after she got married, she didn't work, which was a kind of a common thing in those days. When you get married, you stayed at home and looked after your husband in the house. And my dad was a plumber gas fitter.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your house? Was it a house? Was it a flat? On the block?
It was, I stayed at 56 Pinmore Street. We stayed one up. It was 8 in the block. We stayed one up. It was 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, living room, kitchen, toilet.
So what kind of cooking facilities did you have?
It was gas.
A gas cooker?
A gas cooker, yeah.
And what about your heating?
We did have a coal fire. There was a coal fire in the living room and there was a coal fire in the bedroom. But then, and I remember my dad and my mum cleaning it out and putting the newspapers up so that it could catch when it was, when they had lit it. But eventually they get rid of that and they got a gas fire in the living room. But we still had the coal fire in the bedroom, which we used occasionally, but not very often, but we did use it sometimes.
Now, when your mum was doing her washing, was it a washing machine she had? Was it the sink?
It was a twin tub washing machine, but we had the 2 sinks with this kind of smaller sink and then we had the big deep sink, and there was also the mangle in the middle. So my mum used, if she was doing a wee sapple through, it would be the big sink that she would use. And then if she was doing like a big washing, like blankets and all that, it was always the twin tub.
Can you tell me a little bit about your neighbours? Do you remember any of them, their names?
Yeah, I kind of remember more or less everyone up close. There was a couple in the bottom across from us, Mr. and Mrs. McMorland, and they had 2 sons. Down below us was Jean and Joe, who were a lovely couple who were very hard of hearing, and you would hear their music and you would hear their conversations. A lovely couple. Next door to us were Anne and Dunky Burns and their daughter Vicky, and then they kind of split up, and when Vicky was a wee bit older she moved into the house. Up above the Burns were Pat Sweeney and his mum, After his mum died, Pat moved into the house. Above us were Mr. and Mrs. Summers, and they had 2 boys and a girl. Danny was a year older than me, and the brother and sister were older again. Above them, I just have a total blank. I just cannot remember who stayed there. But next door to them was Mr. and Mrs. McTaggart, who were an older couple. They were, I think I heard at some point that Mr. McTaggart, who worked on a farm, he was a big man, but he was older and he was kind of frail by that time, and I remember sometimes I would go up and just visit them and that sort of thing, and they had the coal fire, and Mr. McTaggart had a wee accident and he fell and he got quite badly burned in the fire, and it wasn't all that long after that I think that he died. And anytime I wasn't up, there was never the coal. Mrs. McTaggart never used the coal fire. It was always like a wee electric fire, but her heating was hardly ever on. But yeah, let's see who else. And the next close, my aunt and uncle stayed there, and then they moved across the road and up because I don't think they particularly liked the ground floor flat. Who else who stayed above them? It was Bridie. I can't remember what her second name was. And the top flat, there was a girl that I used to kind of play with, and that was Jill Crichton, and she lived there with her brother and her mum and dad. Across from them were the Dochertys, Brenda, who was I think a year younger than me. We kind of played together. Can't really remember who was below them. And then below them were the Rayburns, and it was Frankie Rayburn, who was the same age as me and went to the same school as me. And he lived there with his mum, his dad, and his older brother and sister. And below them was a couple, Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, who didn't have any family.
Do you remember any local characters?
Not characters as such. As I said, I mentioned Mrs. McTaggart, and she certainly was a good age, even when I was a wee girl, but she used to go out and clean the church somewhere in, like kind of Thorny Bank area type place, or Eastwood, up that kind of area. But she used to leave about 3 o'clock in the morning, and she would walk, do the cleaning, and then come home again. This wee woman, I mean, she was about 5 foot if she was that, but she used to go and clean the bank and the church and all the rest of it, but not any kind of characters as such. I just remember Mrs. McTaggart.
Did you go to nursery school, Karen?
No, and I don't think many people did in, the early 60s. I think we more or less kind of went, being at home and then just into primary school.
Was there any nurseries in the area?
I don't know. I can't remember. I went to Leven Primary School. I had a wonderful time. I loved primary school. I remember some of my teachers. My very first primary 1 teacher was Miss Darragh. I think my primary 2 teacher was Mrs. Campbell. I had a very, very favourite teacher when I was in P4, Miss McClelland, which I have got my school photograph, and she's in it. She was my favourite. Then I had in P5 a Miss Holiday, and then in P6 and P7 I think was various teachers, but I think my last teacher was Miss Warnock, who again I really liked.
So you and your friends at primary school, did you have any special games that you would play in the school or even at home?
When we were in school, it was, the kind of usual, like chasing and tig and, and that sort of thing. And sometimes I think even some of the boys done it as well. We would get our jackets. Somebody would have the hood, somebody would have the bottom, somebody would have the arms, and you would somebody would sit in it, and then you would do this, and like throw them up in the air with your jackets and that sort of thing. Needless to say, there was a couple of times you would go home and somebody's jacket had been ripped because we would do that. When we were at home, I was very lucky because there was a lot of people around about my own age and everyone just kind of played together. And again, it was like chases and tick and kick the can and that sort of thing. And the girls like ropes and elastic ropes and peaver and, you know, just hide and seek and kick the can and Kirby, and it was a really good, you know, it was a good load of friendly people that everyone got on and we just all played together.
Did you, when you were all playing together, did you ever do anything as a big group? Like concerts, anything like that?
Yes, we sometimes had wee concerts at the close, because there was no security entry, so the front of the close was the stage, and round this at the stairs, that was the kind of where you would go before you come onto stage sort of thing. And we would sing, we would dance, someone would tell jokes. We never invited like any of the parents, it was just like the kids that would do it. We would build dens in the woods. We would go and we would get anything that was lying around. In fact, I remember there was one time there was a big iron bedstead, like the kind of like the base of it weighed a ton, and a couple of us had went to get it, and we leaned it against something, I don't know what it was, and the next minute it fell, and needless to say, I was standing just in the right place for it to get me from the knees down to the feet, and I was all cut. Anyway, but we used to do things like that, and then, as I say, we would maybe go down the burn and go in the woods, or we would all meet up in the summer and we would maybe go swimming. We would either walk into Barhead, or if we were feeling really, really up for it, we would walk to Eastwood.
Did you go on any holidays, Carol?
Yeah, we didn't go abroad or anything like that. We would go to Girvan. My dad worked in Paisley, and he would get the Paisley Fair, which was normally the first 2 weeks in August, and we would hire a caravan and we would go to Girvan. And because I didn't have any brothers or sisters, I was allowed to take my friend Alison, so we would go there.
Was Alison your friend at school as well?
Yes, I have known Alison almost 51 years.
So Carol, I'll take you back to your concerts.
Yeah.
Did you have a special showstopper party piece? What was your showstopper?
It was California, Here I Come. And I think Alison and I just did it and made a wee, kind of show. And do you want me to sing?
You had a dance routine? You can sing if you want.
What was it? California, here I come, right back where I started from. The flowers, they bloom in the sun. California, here I come.
So I'm going to ask you now about teenage years, Carol. What did you do for fun? Did you get pictures, anything like that?
There wasn't a lot to do in Nitshill. I was quite quiet, and I didn't really kind of go out a lot. I had my bike, I would maybe go out on my bike, and by this time my friend Alison had moved up to South Nitshill, so I would go up to her house some nights, or she would come down to mine, and we would just listen to records or whatever. We didn't really kind of go out, even to the pictures. The only time I remember when, when Greece was the big thing in 1977, I think it might have been, and Alison and I went to the pictures to see that, and it was down at the Gorbals, I think it was the Bedford or something like that. That is the only time that I actually ever remember like going to the pictures, kind of just, kind of like as a teenager, like myself without like my mum or my dad or anything like that. But at first, like when Alice and I were younger, like teenagers, we weren't allowed to go into town. But the first place that we were allowed to, I think we were maybe about 13 or 14 at the time, was Shawlands, and we went into Shawlands, and that was our big day out, was going into Shawlands. But eventually, we were allowed to go into the town and that sort of thing, and sometimes we would go in on a Sunday and we'd go up to the Barras. I remember one time that we went, and Alison had got brogues, and it was brogues or moccasins that you could get. So I was the sensible one, I had the moccasins, Alison had the brogues, with the tacks on them, so that they'd make lots of noise. And this particular day, we went into the Barras on a Sunday, and Alison was like, my feet are so sore, my feet, and her ankles were just cut to shreds. I says, right, okay, then you can have my shoes and I'll have your shoes. So needless to say, at the end of the day, the both of us had ankles that were cut to shreds.
How would you sum up your early childhood then, Karen?
Wonderful.
So what was your last school, Karen?
My last school was Crookston Castle Secondary, and I hated it. I hated secondary school with a passion. Loved primary school. I had lots of friends, knew everyone, and as I said before, I was quite quiet. Went up to secondary school. There were still some. My friend Alison, she went to Greybank, but I mean, I knew people at Crookston and that sort of thing, but I hated it. I kind of got bullied as well, so that probably didn't help matters. But I just didn't like school at all. Not secondary school, no. As I said, primary was fine, but secondary school I just didn't do at all.
So when you were at secondary school, did you know what you wanted to do when you left the school?
Well, when we were I stayed on to do a 5th year, and while we were in 5th year, we were allowed to do different kind of like community things, and it was like you could do so many weeks you would go to visit an old person in their own home. You would visit the nursery schools, helping in the nursery school, and you could go to Crookston Home, which was an old person's home, and go there. So done the visiting old people in their home, but I don't think they particularly liked that. And when you're 15, there's not a lot that you've got in common, and I think maybe some people felt a bit uncomfortable having teenagers in their house. Nursery, loved the nursery, great with the kids, but I took a real shine to do the old folks' home, and I thought, and I actually would go on a Saturday as well. I kind of got to know the nurses and that sort of thing, and I would go on a Saturday and sit down and chat to some of the patients and go and get like sweeties from the wee shop or take them for tea or that sort of thing, and I loved it, and I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to do nursing, I want to do something like this. But then the people started to die, and I get really upset, and my dad said, no, I don't think you're cut out for that. So I didn't do nursing or anything like that. But I left school and I worked in an office. I left school I think my last exam was the 12th of May. I started work on, I think about the 17th of May, and I was 17 on the 23rd of May. And I just sort of worked in an office ever since. Well, until the past 19 years I worked in a school, but that's but it's always been office work that I had done.
Can you tell me a wee bit about Nitshill when you were growing up, what it was like as a community?
It wasn't, and I don't mean this to sound bad, it wasn't like a well-off community. Everybody was total working class. There wasn't any, I actually don't really remember like any of the kids that I hung around with. Like if they're, I remember that there was very few of their mums that worked, but all their dads worked. so everything that everybody had, they worked for, and it was, like everybody kind of knew everybody, everybody kind of knew everybody, and there was people that maybe that you knew of but didn't know, that were kind of maybe not very nice people, maybe a wee bit kind of like troublemakers, but we never seen any trouble, or I never felt scared or anything like that. I really had a very nice time living up in Nitshill. There was there was nothing I would say was bad about it. No, I don't actually. I remember lots of different things, and it's all nice things that I remember, just maybe it was because I was a child and I was quite innocent and had no idea what was going on in the big wide world, but in my wee world, everything was just hunky-dory and perfect.
What were the local industries like? The big employers in the area?
I actually can't really remember. I remember there was a place next to Leven Primary School, and I think it was called Phillips. And it was one of the girls, in fact I mentioned earlier, Jill Crichton, her dad worked in there. I remember that, and I remember there was a wee place further down, and it could it have been like a wood place, or I don't remember any industries as such other than like that Phillips, that kind of thing. But there was another wee place further down, but I can't remember what it was. Yep, we had shops in the Nitshill shops, and there was a butcher's and a newsagent's. In fact, Mrs. Summers up the stair worked in the wee newsagent's. There was like a wee kind of a supermarket type thing, and they were the kind of local shops, but my mum and her friend Lizzie used to go down onto the Nitshill Road and go up to there was a co in the Nitshill Road at the kind of the top end, just kind of like before the train station. I remember them going there, and then there was other shops in the Nitshill Road, and there was other wee shops at Craigbank shops as well. There was the shops there. No big like Tesco and Asda like there is nowadays. Then they decided they were going to build the village, which was up where Leven Waters Hotel used to be, and they built that and built the wee kind of play area, and there was a supermarket, was it Presto or something like that. That was like the big supermarket. But up there was like again there was the newsagents, and there was like a wee haberdashery. There was as I said, there was city bakeries. I used to be able to sit in there at the city bakeries. Sometimes my mum and Lizzie, if I went with them, they would maybe go in and have a wee cup of tea, and I would get a wee cup of tea and a wee cake as well. I can't remember what else it was, but that was the village. That was the.
So you were really quite well served then. For shops.
Yes.
Was there any vans coming round? Maybe delivering anything?
Yeah.
Milk.
Jimmy Hunter. He came round. His van was orange and kind of cream, and opened at the back, so you'd go into the back, and he would come round and just every night, sometimes twice a night. But yes, Jimmy Hunter used to come round and he would sell like ice cream and sweeties and cigarettes and that sort of thing. And I kind of remember a van as well that I think it might have been like a City Bakeries van or something that came round, but the most prominent one is Jimmy Hunter. Everybody knew Jimmy Hunter.
Pubs? Any pubs in the area?
Again, too young to go into any of them. There was the Leven Waters, there was the Cavendish, and there was the Royal Oak. Sometimes my dad used to go to the Cavendish, but my dad wasn't a big drinker. or anything like that. It was a couple of pints and then just back up the road. And I remember when I was a wee girl, I remember there was a pub as you came down the big hill onto the Nitshill Road from Pinmore, and it was like a white building. That I remember that getting 1 minute being there and then not being there, being knocked down. And I also remember up at the train station there was I don't know, was it called the Railway Inn or something like that, that you went up kind of steps to at the railway. I remember that, but as I said, I was never in any of the pubs up there.
I'm going to talk about healthcare now and ask you some questions, Carol. Doctors in the area?
Yes, our doctor was Dr. Harry Gerber. His surgery was on the Nitshill Road, and I think he shared the surgery with his brother, but I don't think his brother was a GP as such. I think he was a kind of a psychiatrist or something like that, but my doctor was Dr. Gerber.
Hospitals in the area?
It would be the Southern General or the Victoria Hospital.
If you had an emergency then, sorry for interrupting, if you had an emergency and you had to go to hospital, how would you have got in?
It would have been the Southern, because obviously that was probably the nearest, and obviously if it wasn't by ambulance, probably a taxi. But I mean, there was buses that went to the hospital as well, but it would probably be, you know, if it was an emergency, a taxi or whatever. My dad didn't drive, so public transport.
Okay, Carol, I'm going to put you on the spot now. I'm going to talk about sex and reproduction. Who told you all about the birds and the bees? Was it your mum, your friends, the school?
Probably school. Section 6. Everybody, if you get section 6 yet, you get section 6 yet. And now that was about the reproduction and the birds and the bees and all the rest of it. But my mum, I don't think my mum even broached the subject with me, so I think it was obviously from school, or you know what it's like with kids, and you know, kind of gossiping whatever they'd heard, and probably it was totally wrong, but hey ho.
Did you have anything like the knit nursery come round your school?
I think in the primary school we did. I think we had in the primary school that we did, but I don't. I think, in the primary school, I'm sure we did.
Okay. Transport now, Carol. Buses, trains?
I think we were really well serviced with buses and trains. Well, obviously the train station at Nitshill. There was the Western buses and there was the corporation buses. The Western buses were like for Paisley in Nielsen, in Barhead, you know, that sort of thing. And then there was the corporation buses, and that took you, they came, I think that at that point the terminus was South Nitshill, and there was the 48 and the 49. The 48 went into town and the 49 went to Govan Cross. The 48A left from Priest Hill, and that again would take you into the town. And on the Western buses there was a, what do you call it, a boundary that you could go into Shawlands but you couldn't go on the bus coming back from Shawlands. Is that, I'm sure there was something like that. There was something about the Western buses, and then it all kind of changed.
So would you say you were quite well served for buses then? You could pretty near get anywhere?
Yeah,
from Nitshill.
Yeah, and if you walked over to along the Nitshill Road onto the Crookston Road, and if you walked down to the, the Barhead Road onto the Crookston Road, you could get a 23, and that would take you to like Govan Cross as well, and that kind of went through like Langland Road and that sort of thing.
Was it quite regular?
I think the buses were quite regular.
Can you tell me anything about Nitshill's history?
Not really. I did know about the mining disaster, but not not really, you'd have thought. Oh, there was I can't remember his name. When I was in primary school, there was I'm sure he won the Victoria Cross. It was a pupil at Levern Primary. I can't remember, but I remember seeing the memorial thing in the primary school. But no, never. You'd have thought really, they would kind of tell you a wee bit about your kind of history at primary school, but I don't remember ever getting taught anything like that.
So I'm going to talk, you touched on your working life, and so can you take me through that a wee bit?
Yeah, I had quite a lot of jobs and it was easy then because jobs were 10 a penny, and I actually done some agency work which helped. When I left school, I worked for a football club, a well-known football club. I left there and I went to go over to Jersey to see if I could get like summer job over there. Could get a job, just couldn't get anywhere to stay. Come back. I worked for a wee while in Cones. My friend Alison, she was a machinist in there, and she had said, they're always looking for someone, and I said, I don't have any experience doing anything like that. No. So I worked there for a wee while, just a couple of months, just kind of bagging the clothes, and then I went into like agency work, and it's all been office work that I've done, either reception or just office work, kind of admin, that sort of thing. But it's...
And you're still in admin now?
Yes, I work in a school now. I have done for the past 19 years. So.
In the same school?
Yes, up till almost 3 years ago, I worked just in the senior school, but then we've got a primary school as well. It's a private school that I work for, and I work between the primary and the secondary. But as of the 28th of this month, I'm back over at the senior school full time.
We're going to talk about some community issues now. Would you say Nitshill has changed since you were younger? I know you don't live in Nitshill.
And I'm not really in it enough. I mean, I do pass through. It's total regeneration. I mean, Levern Primary School's gone, Craigbank's gone. We used to go down in the summer and play. You know how there was the tennis courts down there? We would play tennis, and I had some friends that stayed down there. All that's gone now, and it's new houses. But as I said, I'm not really in it. I passed through. I mean, even where I went up to, we went to the Nitshill Memorial thing in November, and I had got my husband Stuart to take me up Pinmore Street just to have a wee look around. And I said, you could go, oh no, wait a minute, that's a dead end street, you can't walk there now. All that, it totally changed from when I was there. As I said, even like the flat that I stayed in, there was 8 in it, now there's only 4, because it had been chopped down. But it's totally different from,
So have they changed it from being a 4 high to now it looks like 4 in the blocks?
Yeah. Refaced it, because it used to be kind of like red, not sandstone, but red kind of brick. But I mean, the streets are still there, Darvel Street, Galson Street, Maybole Street, Pinmore Street, but it's such a different place. Maybe lovely houses and that sort of, there now, and maybe for the, I don't know, would you say for the better? As I said, I had a wonderful time when I was a wee girl, and I didn't notice anything, no one seemed to really be struggling. Maybe they were, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but I mean, everybody just seemed, and I don't know whether you would say it was for better now. Certainly it's aesthetically more pleasing, probably, with the nice houses with their gardens and that sort of thing, instead of all the tenement, well, why we call them tenements with the verandas, but as I said, it's totally changed, since I was there.
So So how would you describe your own national identity?
Scottish. Scottish through and through.
Do you still feel part of the wider community in Nitshill? Because you're kind of on the edge of it now in Nitshill, do you?
To be honest, not really. As I said, I very rarely, I pass through, the Nitshill Road if I'm, going up towards like Sainsbury's or anything like that, but I don't have any involvement in like Nitshill. I'm never there, or none of my friends, or I don't even know anyone that stays there anymore.
Can you tell me what you think is the worst thing about when you were growing up in Nitshill?
As I said, I can't. Maybe I was looking through. I looked through things with rose-coloured spectacles when I was younger, but I don't know whether there was anything like, the worst. That it would just no.
So what would have been the best thing about being brought up in Nitshill?
Just like the community. As I said, as children we all played together, but the parents knew, they were never up in each other's houses, but they knew, and I felt safe. But as I said, the parents kind of knew, you would go out in the morning, and I know it's not an old cliche, you would go out to play in the morning or whatever, maybe go home, get something for your lunch, and then you would be back out, kind of like during the holidays. And I mean, even when the school holidays went on and it was after school or anything like that, I think it was the community, and everybody knew everyone, and there was the odd kind of fallout, but no, I think, as I said, I just had a really nice time as a child in Nitshill, and I think the people helped make that as well, because, as I said, we all knew everybody, and the good thing was, as I said, we were all round about the same ages as well, maybe a couple of years older, a couple of years younger, but we all just kind of stuck in and gelled. Obviously, when you kind of get up a wee bit and you become teenagers, everything kind of starts to, people move away and that sort of thing. But no, the community, the people.
Well, Carol, that's all my questions. Do you think I've missed anything? Is there anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. And I said I've got loads of memories. I could go and sit here the whole day. But yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing your memories for the Nitshill Memories project.
Thank you for having me.